we have a little bit of an understanding of how we can use these effects tracks or these effects strips inside of the video sequence editor, let's start building a very simple title to my little animation. We're going to begin by going in and adding a simple background color. This is just going to be black, and we'll add in a text layer as well. And let's give it a good name. Let's see. I think what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to do Dumbo takes a bath. There we go. And I want to make under the style section here, I want to make the size quite big. Now, if you want to use a different font, you physically have to load in the font file into Blender, and that's where you do it inside of here. You'll have to navigate to where that physical font file is stored on your machine, and then Blender is going to reference it when it creates the title itself. But the default font is just fine for what we're doing today, and so we'll keep going. Now, the next challenge that we have is that we have to start taking all of these clips and closing this gap between the title sequence itself and the rest of the storyboards. Now, I only have a couple of them. I certainly could just grab them all with just my box selection tool and just left click and drag them to the left until they kind of connect like that. That works just fine. It's a great idea. However, if you're working with hundreds of strips, this could be a little bit of a challenge. The cool thing about working inside the visual sequence editor or the video sequence editor is that you can have hundreds and thousands of clips inside of your timeline. Being able to close these gaps can be a challenge if you're working with these huge areas. In addition, it's also very easy to have little one-frame gaps in between our images. This is very simple to create, and let me just, there we go. Now I have a one-frame, oops, I hit the undo key, excuse me, let me try that one more time. Now I have a simple one-frame gap that I want to resolve inside of my timeline. And I don't want that. I want to get rid of all of those gaps. So here's the easy way of getting rid of all the gaps in your timeline, and it's under the Strip pull-down menu. And specifically, we're going to go to the Transform category tools, and we're going to do Remove Gaps. Now watch what happens to my timeline. It's going to globally look through all of the clips, and it's going to remove all of the gaps. So we're not going to have little one-frame black holes in between our clips, which is pretty great, and we've removed all of those gaps. So that's an easy way of getting rid of all those openings in your timeline. Now, if you look at the animation that we have at the moment, it's starting to look okay. I have a little bit of black here at the front. Dumbo takes a bath, and then there it goes. Now, I want to have the beginning of this fade on. I like it starting in black. That's cool. But then I want my text to fade on, and then I want the whole thing to fade out into my animation over here. So it's real easy to do this. Let's go ahead and add it in. The first thing that we need to do is add a fade in on the text element here. So with the text element selected, I can go into the Add Pull-Down menu and check it out. We have this Fade category of options, and this is pretty cool. And this is going to allow us to fade in and out, on each individual clip. Now what it does is it's going to fade in across the total duration of the clip itself. I know it's hard to see in the video, and I apologize, but there's now a line that goes from the bottom left-hand corner to the upper right-hand corner of the clip. And it's going to fade across the total duration of the clip, which isn't exactly what I'm after. What I want to do is I want it to fade in from this point at frame 8, maybe all the way to frame 18. So a good 10 frame fade, if you will. Now, if we go into Add, Fade, let's do 2 current frame. So it's only going to fade from the beginning of the clip to the location of my playhead. So now I have a quick 10 frame fade, and we're on into the title, which is pretty cool. I'm digging it. That's working out real well. Let's make some small adjustments here to the location of the clips inside of my timeline. And I'm going to start to figure out how I'm going to fade out and into this entire sequence here. Now, I want to make my life a little bit easier, and I'm going to drag these up. There we go. So both of these tracks are above the remainder over here. And let's grab their out points and extend them a little bit. And I think I want to have, I think I'm going to have my title sequence be about 2 seconds long, somewhere right around there. I like that. That's cool. Let's grab all of this, hold down the Shift key, grab these elements, and I'm going to move them to the location of my playhead. So this is the overall timing I want to have for my animatic. and then we're into it, okay? But I want it to fade out. I want both the text and the black to fade out into all of my lovely work over here. Now to get that done, we have to arrange some of these clips a little bit more directly. We have to create some overlap between the clips below and the clips above. And I'm going to use my timestamps up here to help me out. I want this to be like a 10 frame fade, so I'm going to go back in time to, because we're working at 24 frames a second, so I'm going to go back to frame 14 right there. I'm going to grab all of these and do this. Now, since we moved the entire group back 10 frames, we've actually removed 10 frames from the animation, which isn't necessarily what I want. We need to have some overlapping frames to create the transition, but I don't want to ruin the timing from this point going forward. So instead of moving them, let's extend their endpoints to the playhead. That way I don't ruin the timing and the animation that I created for this original shot. Remember, it kind of animates in, and we're able to make the clip, or able to make the fades once again. Now, remember, keep in mind, we want the playhead to define when our fade begins. So I want to put it right there because I want it to fade from this location forward in time to the out of the clip. Let's add the fade, and this now we're going to go to from current frame. Excuse me. You can see it starts to fade out. We're going to do the exact same thing with the black solid color generator downstairs. Fade, and then from the current frame going forward. And now we have a simple fade into our animation. Let's look at it again. Voila. Making simple effects inside of the video sequence editor using the fade tools is a great way to start rounding out the details of our storyboard animation so that it looks a little bit more cinematic and gives us a really strong understanding of what it is that we're about to animate.